Yo yo yo, it's everyone's favorite Slay the Spire YouTuber here, back with another stupid made-up challenge video. I, like many of you, only consume the highest grade media available, the types of shows that allow me to reflect on who I am as a person and what my purpose on this tiny blue speck truly is. Breaking Bad, with its enlightening dive into the mind of a man with nothing left to lose, and his disastrous fall from grace. Friends, with its window into the average, friendship? Okay, between you and me, I've never actually watched Friends, but in order to continue with my charade of being relatable to strangers on the internet, let's just pretend that I have, okay? And the peak of cinema. One Punch Man, where a bald guy blows up a bunch of anthropomorphic monsters with one punch. Which is what I'm going to be doing today. Beating Slay the Spire with only attacking every enemy once. There are 3 main rules for the challenge. 1. I'm only allowed to play 1 attack card per enemy. That means if I attack an enemy once, I'm not allowed to attack it again. Multi-hit cards are allowed, but they would count as an attack for each enemy I hit, meaning I can't play Cleave and then Strike to finish an enemy off. I am, however, allowed to play 1 attack card and then have a relic finish the enemy off. 2. Relics that deal damage are only allowed if you do not have to play a card to activate them. That means relics like Bronze Scales and Mercury Hourglass are allowed, but stuff like Tingsha and the Letter Opener are not. 3. If the attack brings the enemy's HP to 0, that counts as a kill. There are some enemies, like the Darklings and the Awakened one, that will revive themselves after being killed. After a revive, a second card can be used to defeat them again. My initial strategy for this was pretty simple. Start with the Ironclad, get a billion strength from Demon Force and Limit Break, and bada bing bada boom, challenge complete. He even has the right color palette to be the One Punch Man. Kinda. In practice, however, running a strength build proved to be quite difficult. The speed at which you can scale strength every turn is unfortunately very, very slow. Best case scenario, I've got like 5 energy, a demon force, a flex, and 4 limit breaks. Assuming I can draw all the right cards on turn 1, I'm only up to like 60 strength. And with no block, it's basically game over if I run into any enemies that scale fast on the first few turns. Not only that, but in order to get a run like that started, I'd need to be insanely lucky with my first few card pulls, which just wasn't going to happen. With strength out of the question, there was really only one other idea I had. Block. The Ironclad can not only dish it out, but he also has some great defensive cards like Disarm, Entrench, Metallicize, and the real star of the show, Barricade, which would allow me to stack more and more block as the fight went on. With the plan in place, I started the run. I grabbed Niao's Lament, as none of my starting cards were strong enough to kill a single one of the Act 1 enemies, and checked my map. Unfortunately, there was no good path for me to take that would allow me to defeat an elite, but it was like 6 hours into attempts and I had lost the will to reset, so in we went. My first card pull was one of the 4 or 5 cards that were pivotal for this strategy to work. Body Slam turns my defense into offense, and with the hopes of a barricade, it was a great card to see this early. My first event space was World of Goop, which I don't really think I've ever actually read before. That's kind of a wild room name. Nonetheless, I turned some pain into money and was on my way. I skipped the card reward from combat number 2 and then grabbed Armaments from my last 1 HP enemy encounter. Armaments is one of my personal favorite cards because I tend to suck at Simple Edition, which results in me needing to rest at every campsite after taking like 40 damage from 1 pair of caterpillars. With this challenge, I knew I'd be in combat for a while, which is great for the temporary upgrades that Armaments provides. I grabbed the Courier from a lucky chest room and then smithed Armaments to have it upgrade my entire hand rather than just 1 card. Now, an observant viewer might say, Eclipse, I see that you took Body Slam and can really only deal a max of like 16 damage with your current cards. What are you going to do if you run into basically any enemy in the game? To which I would respond, I don't know, man, probably cry. Luckily, no tears were shed in my next encounter as the looter was very respectful and left after mugging me. I decided to skip taking a second body slam as I wanted to try and keep my deck as slim as possible in case I picked up Entrench, and then opted to go to another rest site rather than try my luck on another event space. After an upgrade to body slam, I picked up the savior of Act 1, Bronze Scales. At this point, I really didn't have any way of dealing damage, so seeing a relic that could do it for me was a huge relief. I can now safely take on most of the Act 1 common enemies without having to immediately reset. I upgraded a defend at my next rest site and then picked up Panic Button, which, if drawn with Body Slam, would be a great finisher for low HP monsters. Bronze Scales came in clutch for my 2v1 against a couple of fungi beasts, and then at long last, I added the MVP of the run to my hand, Barricade. It couldn't have come at a better time, as the Spike Slime in the next room had the most HP of any monster I had fought up until this point. After a few pokes with my Bronze Scale, he split, giving me the opportunity to stack up 49 defense and take out both of his offspring. At this point, the only card I was missing to make a truly disgusting block-heavy bingo was Entrench, and a mere 2 rooms from the boss fight, there it was. After paying the shredded cleric to take my... Okay, no, like, actually, look at this dude's traps, like, holy... Okay, where was I? Oh yeah, okay. I removed a strike, upgraded Entrench, and then headed into the boss room. I would have much rather seen the Slime Boss or the Guardian, as both of them have less health than the Hexaghost, but after just receiving 3 very important cards in the previous couple of rooms, I wasn't going to complain. I unfortunately didn't draw Barricade until turn 2, which especially sucked because this guy was going to be dealing a hexaload of damage. You guys get it? Because he's called the Hexaghost? I don't know, man. Like, they can't all be bangers. Well, with Barricade active, I started stacking block. I was able to make the most of my Panic Button by drawing it with Entrench, giving me 60 additional block for the low price of 1 energy. 3 more Entrenches later, I was sitting at 400 block. I was untouchable and could see the fear in the Hexaghost's weird hexagonal eye thing as I brought the hammer down, ending the battle with a single body slam. For my spoils, I picked up an offering that would allow me to hopefully draw a Barricade sooner, and a Busted Crown, since there weren't really any cards that could make my deck better than it already was. Act 2 started out a little shaky as I met my block-loving counterpart, the Spherical Guardian, who inflicts 5 turns of Frail, which makes stacking block difficult. I eventually outscaled the Guardian and hit him with my Uno reverse card in the form of 160 damage straight to his stupid spherical head. I skipped Ritual Dagger in favor of more cash money, and then proceeded to spend that cash money on a Costco membership, and Anchor, the removal of another strike, a Shockwave, and a Shrug It Off. I also bought a $1.50 hot dog because, like, what a great deal. You even get a drink. I traded some Vitality for some Longevity at the Forgotten Altar, gave the Campfire Spirit my useless bash, and then had a mental breakdown trying to figure out what card I should upgrade. I ended up smithing Offering and then obliterated the Shelled Parasite. My irrational spending spree at the previous shop left me too poor to get anything at the next one, which is totally fine, because you know what, it was all terrible garbage anyways, so even if I had money, I totally wouldn't have bought anything. My Act 2 chest had Ink Bottle, and after a quick nap, I body slammed the vulnerable Snake Plant, which you should absolutely not do in real life, even if you have 58 block. Shop number 3 for this act had the Shovel, which I grabbed as I wasn't losing enough health to rest at campfires, and there was no need for me to smith with armaments in my deck. I drank my block potion for a quick kill on the Mystic in my next fight, and a few turns later, the Centurion was vanquished as well. I turned down Apparition from the Council of Ghosts, who actually informed me that Niao is a woman, which I genuinely did not realize until just now. At the last campfire before the boss, I dug up a 17th century lantern that glowed green from all the uranium they had used back then, and then approached the Act 2 boss. This time around, I was up against the Bronze Automaton, who sucks because he summons his stupid little bronze minions that take your best cards. They took my Panic Button and Entrench, which made scaling difficult for the first few turns, but after a lucky Shockwave draw, I got Entrench back. A few turns later, Panic Button was in my possession once more, and on turn 10, not even a dope new AI GPU chip could save the automaton from the 318 damage I was dishing out. I picked up Exhume to give me a second chance to play Panic Button, Shockwave, or Offering, and then picked up the Shackle over Mark of Pain and the Cursed Key with the intent of keeping extra useless cards out of my deck. Act 3 started me out against 3 Darklings who I literally could not figure out how to kill for 16 turns. They just kept blocking, and then reviving, and then blocking, and then reviving. Like, come on, man, there's no need. You guys are going right down in F tier with the Exploders. My first event space had me falling to my death, allowing me to get rid of my third to last strike, and my second event forced me to add 2 Madness to my deck. I probably should have just lost some max HP, but for some reason that always scares me, so Madness it is. Event space 3 had me add another colorless card to my deck, Apotheosis, which I literally had 0 reason to take as I already had Armaments. Remember how like 30 seconds ago I said I wanted to keep unnecessary cards out of my deck? Well, turns out I lied. In the store, I bought a Thorns Potion and an Energy Potion. I considered taking Ghostly Armor, but thought I was scaling fast enough it probably wasn't necessary. I dug up some more radioactive waste at my next rest site in the form of Toxic Egg, and then crushed the Orb Walker in a single turn with a lucky draw from Ink Bottle. The Maw, with its 300 health, was a little annoying, but he was no match for my ungodly 342 damage on turn 6. I threw out my recently purchased Energy Potion for an Entropic Brew and grabbed a very helpful question card from my next chest. I removed yet another strike at the next shop and made quick work of the Horde of Jawworms. It wouldn't be an Act 3-1 without a couple of Exploders who were no match for my 264 block. I picked up Seeing Red to make playing Barricade slightly less deadly, and then fed into consumerism by finding 3 potions and then immediately throwing them away. The nightmarish Darklings were back for the final fight before the boss, and my incompetence was on full display for the 22 turns it took me to beat them. I dug one final time and picked up a toy ornithopter that was probably covered in lead paint and approached the final hurdle in the run. I was more than happy to see my old friend the Time Eater, as the Awakened would have been nasty with his 2 quick-scaling cultists, and Donu and Deka shuffled dazed into my decently small deck, making playing Entrenched more difficult. I tossed my Smoke Bomb and then drank my Thorns Potion and Entropic Brew for 10 extra health thanks to the Ornithopter. Entropic Brew pulled Fairy in a Bottle, which more or less sealed the fate of the run. An amazing first turn draw allowed me to play Barricade immediately, and after a really poor thought out turn 2, I was sitting comfortably at 90 block. 3 entrenched cards later, I was nestled behind 680 points worth of block. Even weakened, the Time Eater got a nice big bite of a 510 damage knuckle sandwich, and I was victorious. The challenge was beaten, and it only took me, oh my god, 109 tries? Good lord, the video is over. I'm gonna like go outside or something.